We're live. We're launching Going First. Nell here with the Purpose Party Playbook, with the 3D version of Going First, with some beautiful flowers from my anniversary, also for the launch, and of course, with the non-alcoholic Bellini that I found at the farm stand this morning. So thank you to these guys. So fun to be here. Huge thanks to Alexis and NGNG who are making this all happen. What a treat to just spend 90 minutes with all of you who will drop in and drop out and who are watching later on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever you are. Really the point of today, as all of my loving, generous advisors and colleagues are saying, is to have fun and to celebrate the fact that, like, I wrote a book, sorry, not sorry, it's kind of long. And the second book is a playbook, which actually is mostly for you. There's mostly blank space. So I wrote a few words to prompt your words. Hi, Rob the drummer. Hi, Claire. So fun to see you guys. Thanks for coming in. So we're going to spend some time. We have some amazing people coming to join, some of my co-collaborators, co-conspirators in this work of purposeful leadership. And really today is about you all kind of being behind the scenes. You guys are the inner circle from, thank you, David, from my drum teacher when I was, Rob, maybe 11, right? And like, very scared and skittish to bang it out on the drums, where Rob was like, come on, get in it. So I can credit him for my comfort on stage today, maybe. So bring you behind stage on all of it, right? The work that I do, we'll have a session, a little chat about coaching with the fabulous Serena Williams, not that Serena with a Y, but she's also fabulous. We'll talk about the power of coaching and why that's so important and how the book is fed by my work coaching, how it feeds the coaching I do now. We'll talk about the team dynamics and the group programs that we do with Purpose Fused with my two partners there, Mark and Neil, who you will love. And then we'll actually go behind the scenes of the book. So if you are thinking about writing a book, or if you have someone in your life who's thinking about writing a book, near the end of the time, probably about 2-ish, we'll bring on the fabulous, formidable Amber Villauer of No Guts, No Glory, who has helped get me here to talk about what it's like to write a book, or what it was like for me at least. And so really excited to kind of demystify that and share those behind the scenes as well. Thank you, Kate. I know you've got a book in you, so maybe that part's for you. What else? The book is fabulous. I hope you'll get it. Some of you probably already have the Kindle book, add in the playbook, and you'll explore doing the work and doing the thinking. But the other piece of today is there are all these bonuses, right? So you've probably seen a book launch before, all this bonus content, Yahoo. I am very excited about my bonuses because, again, they bring you into the work, right? So quickly, what this book is not is kind of a redefinition of purpose or a pitch to make you want to be purposeful. If you don't already live with purpose, you're not in this room. You're probably not going to buy this book, and that's totally fine with me. I wrote the book after these 15 years of really working with people, from students to CEOs to new managers, everyone in between, women who'd left the workforce often to raise kids, looking to come back in, also men transitioning in that way. And the thing I want to do with this book is to depressurize purpose. Because the ones among us, the leaders among us, and the humans and the professionals among us who are most purpose-driven and who want to change the world, who want to make the world a better place, we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves, which can be motivating, but it can also be really overwhelming. It can lead to burnout and overwhelm. And that's not good, right? That's not good for anybody. You've all heard me use the overused oxygen mask metaphor. We need to be okay. We need to be energized and pumped up every day because doing this work is hard and it takes energy. And so I really, with this book, I want to depressurize this notion of purpose, to make it more accessible, to make it even maybe a little bit fun, and to help you recognize the many, many things that I am sure each of you already do that have impact, that ripple out and do contribute to that legacy you want to build, even if you haven't cured cancer yet, or totally eliminated litter in your town, or eliminated the wage gap at your company, right? I love that you're working toward or thinking about those things, but it's not about doing all of it. It's just those marginal tweaks and the kind of purposeful multitasking, or the things that make you feel stacktastic, as Mark Griffin, my partner, says, who will be on in a little bit, right? What can you add? Can you go to the gym with a friend? So not only are you getting the endorphins of exercise, keeping your heart healthy, but you're also getting those social connections. You're an accountability partner for them, right? You're hitting two spheres of impact, as I talk about in the book. So anyway, thank you. It's so fun to see these love notes in the text. Thank you guys for being here. And so I'll just share a little bit more about the why and the background. We have our first guest come in about 1:20, so about 12 minutes here in Eastern time. For you guys in the chat, keep the love coming. I love those notes. Words of affirmation is probably my number one love language, as my husband knows well. But I would love to hear from you guys why you're here, first of all. And I know a lot of you are just doing it as a labor of love to me. How do you get here? Whether my mom hired you to teach me drums or something else that has brought you to purposeful leadership. And third, if you have a question, if you have the book already, if you read the ebook and you're wondering if there's something in here that you want to know, or if something about the book process that you want to know, or something about coaching, or any of that is fair game. So drop questions in there. I'm pretty good at multitasking, and Alexis backstage is helping as well. So would love to hear those things. And you may know that I'm a huge proponent of peer learning. And so I wish that you all in the chat could all be in the same room. Maybe at some point you will, because you're all such amazing entrepreneurs, musicians, creatives, leaders, founders, investors, just in the group that I'm seeing here already. So so tell me in the chat, how'd you get here? Why are you here? And is there something you're wondering about the book or the playbook? So the things that I wrote to share, I told you a little bit about why I wrote this and where it came from, but just a little more on that kind of why, right? And the vision. The vision that I have, a teeny bit of backstory, a lot of you know some of this. I worked internationally for 10 years in the not-for-profit sector. A lot of it was youth leadership and community leadership, themes that are very similar to what I do now, but in very different contexts, whether that was, youth activists who are working with their mayors on projects from Sao Paulo to Rwanda and Kigali to Tokyo and Seoul, as well as Israel-Palestine partnerships. And then I was in the Middle East, building out a community center for leaders of all ages in Palestine and the West Bank. So very different context than what I tend to be doing now, but similar stuff of really helping people understand what they care about, number one. Number two, what they are uniquely good at, what they have energy for, which is the thing I talk a lot about. And what makes an impact and how that's motivating and inspiring to them, right? So that kind of blend is how I see purpose in action. And so when I came back to the US after 10 years of working abroad, I lived in New York and I was going to business school with Dimitri. Hi, Dimitri, and some other folks here. And I looked around New York. I'm from Connecticut, so I'd grown up around here. My dad lived in the city when I was growing up. But I looked around New York and I felt like I saw a lot of zombies. And having just lived in Palestine for 5 years in the West Bank, I was like, guys, we are in, I had the Caput Mundi syndrome for a little bit as New York, as the city. We are in the city. We have access to any kind of food and any expert and wealth and culture and rivers, dirty though they may be, and all of these amazing things that make up New York City. How are you zombieing around? And with no shame or blame or anything, New York life is intense. It is a grind. It is tiring to get groceries. It is tiring to pound the pavement. It is expensive, and so either you're grinding 90 hours a week making nothing, or you're making a lot. It's still a grind. But it really turned this thing in me of like, work should be a source of joy and fulfillment, right? It should be inspiring to do work. We have a human drive, biologically, evolutionarily, we have a drive to contribute to something bigger than us, right? Whether that was hunting to get a bison to bring back for our community, or, hollowing the gourds to make storage for the winter, whatever. This is a long time running that we have wanted to contribute to something larger. So that continues. And yet people were so beat down by the way we were doing work. So for the last 15 years, this has been my vision. How can we make work more fulfilling, more inspiring, and healthier, bottom line, for everyone at every pay level, of every gender persuasion, of every full-time, part-time contractor status, right? All across functions, across geographies, across industries. I really care. The first, I'm kind of a URL shopper. I love buying domains. I learned that from Erica Karp, who is a brilliant friend and mentor. And she talked about she's like, I'm a preferred customer at GoDaddy, which is a domain service. So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So the first domain I bought was workisaparty.com. So stay tuned. That might be coming at some point next. Anyway, the vision here is to really make work healthy, fair, and inspiring for all of us. And I hope that in some small way, the book does it. The Me, We, World framework, perfectly timed, David. It's as though I cued that question. The how of this work is this Me, We, World framework, right? My new entity, a public benefit corp and a certified B Corp here in Connecticut, is 3D performance, which comes from this framework of me and we and world. And so the aha that I had through moving back to New York, business school, and the early days of my last company, Inspiring Capital, was that there are win-win-wins here. So I don't want to minimize the challenge of, reversing climate change, or ending racism and other biases, or making work fair and balancing the imbalance that we're seeing in the auto industry right now, or that, the Hollywood writers and actors are working out. These are complex issues. And I know and have seen, and I've talked about this with a lot of you in the room and other people in the background of my work, that there are win-win-wins, right? So when I do something that's good for me, that trip to the gym with a friend that released my endorphins, got some social contact going, provided accountability for them, which makes me feel good about giving that gift. That is good for my team, right? When I go into a meeting after that workout with those endorphins, there's science to show actually we have more self-efficacy. We believe we can do hard things after a workout in the morning. So get to the gym or walk or whatever you're going to do. But that me impact creates a ripple into the me. And when I show up creative and open and loving and, curious in my meetings, there's no way that doesn't lead to a greater chance that in that meeting, we're going to make a decision that's better for the world, right? For the people around us, for our customers, for our employees, whatever it might be. And so you see these kind of upward spirals, right? Between me and we and world. And they go every direction, right? When I do something that I see have a positive impact on the world, the fact that my coachees are like, hey, that was transformational to be out with the horses, which we'll get to be out with you and the horses and have that breakthrough that I'm overacting and I'm kicking up dust. And it's a pain. It is overworking me and burning me out. It's overwhelming for my team. The fact that they now are a more empathetic, calmer, work smarter, not harder leader trickles out to their team and makes those people's lives better, right? So when I see that impact, I feel better. And that's the world to me impact. So anyway, I hope that helps, David. But this me, we world is really a theme throughout all of the work. It's one of the 3-dimension frameworks that the name 3D performance refers to. All right, we're getting close. I see Serena in the waiting room, which is going to be an amazing add to the conversation. Just too quickly back to the book for a moment. A few notes. What the book is not. It is not trying to redefine purpose. I think a lot of people do that and have done that really, really well. There's an ancient Japanese concept of ikigai, which is that overlap between what the world needs, what you're good at, what you can somehow get paid or compensated for, and what you love. I don't think we need to really improve that definition of purpose. So I'm not messing with that. Again, I'm not trying to convince you to be purposeful. selling, proselytizing. I learned a long time ago it's a really bad business model. So that's not what I'm here for. It is merely a practical, intentionally very simple 6-sphere framework, a dashboard where we can all lay out the impact that we're having through our lives and work really holistically, to go back to what I opened with, relieving the purpose pressure, recognizing all the things we already do that have impact on ourselves and our teams and families and the world around us, so that we can take credit, feel inspired, and thus have energy to do even more in marginal ways. So that's what the book is. The playbook is the blank space, mostly white space for you all to work with. It's kind of a guided journal, because I know from my learning and development background and from 15 years of this work with a huge range of professionals, just reading it, just seeing the framework, everyone's like, that makes sense. That's helpful. It's different. I've never seen it put in that way before. It's simple. That works. But until you really engage with it, until you work through your spheres and take a sense check of where you are, where you would like to be, and how to get there, it just doesn't really move the needle. And moving the needle is what we're here for. There's actually a great new group called Moving the Needle, that we're hoping to partner with and do some stuff with. So that's what it is. I'll read a quick excerpt and then we will bring Serena on stage. So this is from the very intro, page XV or 15 in the introduction. When it comes to living and leading more purposefully, there is no time to waste. Our physical and mental health require us to invest differently than we have before in all of the factors that keep us well. Professionally, the only path to success in the 21st century economy is one that considers our effects as individuals and organizations on the people around us and the planet we share. And I'll include a quote from one of the 150 leaders, C-level and entrepreneurial leaders that I interviewed across geographies and industries, Hala Tomasdottir, who was the only Icelandic investor not to go broke in that meltdown. She was also a presidential candidate in Iceland, and now she works really closely with Richard Branson on his B team of conscious businesses. And what she said in our conversation was that the 2020s are a portal moment. It's not just a paradigm shift in the way we do business. We're headed into a whole new reality in which humanity comes first. And so with that, we're going to quickly ground. I invite you all to get grounded with me before we hear from the beautiful and brilliant Serena Williams. So take a deep breath, roll or jiggle your shoulders or whatever you need on this Tuesday morning or afternoon or evening, depending where you are. Look away from the screen for a moment. If you have other windows open, let them be. And then just breathe deeply. I don't know if you've seen this notion of screen apnea, but it's shown that we actually breathe more shallowly when we're looking at a computer screen or a phone screen. And you might know that oxygen is really important for learning and thinking and survival. So, countering screen apnea, I want you to breathe deeply, and I want you to think of one thing that today you are celebrating. And if it's a hard moment, maybe you're celebrating that you got out of bed. That is totally fair. We have all lived through those moments. Maybe you're celebrating that a friend or a family member got out of bed because they are going through a hard moment. Or maybe you also just wrote a book. Or maybe you also just decided to write a book. Or maybe your new puppy learned to sit. Or you had a breakthrough with a kid about your morning routine, or a hard conversation with a colleague. Whatever it is, in any of the 6 spheres of impact, pick one thing, big or small, that you can contribute to our celebration vibes today. And just hold on to that. Picturing that reason for celebration, take 2 more really deep breaths. And then as you're ready, rejoin the group. And please, if you're inclined, drop that celebration into the chat. These are such great vibes to see. Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you, Kate. I'm glad that resonates. Serena, come on up on stage, and hopefully we'll get some little celebrations in the chat as you come join us.
Hello, Nell.
Hi, Serena. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm great.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Congratulations on this book launch. This is exciting.
Thank you. It is fun. Gosh, to Kate's point, right? We do not give ourselves credit for what we do. Amber, maybe we'll talk about it later. And you know a little bit, some of this, Serena was a mentor and trainer in the coaching program that I just went through over the last year. And, I was just talking with one of our cohort mates about, she's like, God, remember the first week of training, she coached me. We were doing coaching from day one to Transformation Edges credit. And she's like, remember you were working on how hard it is to promote yourself and to talk about this and to market it. And so NGNG, Amber and Alexis and team dragged me kicking and screaming. She's like, do a live stream. I'm like, but what's the content? What are people going to learn? Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Anyway, so here we are. We'll get some content, but yes, just celebrating is a good reason to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a wonderful thing to be here. And I was just looking at your comments as you were just speaking and the people talking. And certainly, I think it was Kate who said, giving ourselves credit for what we do and for what we don't do, and being really clear about that. And I was just thinking about that and all that you do. And so that really resonated with me.
I love that. Yusuf, gosh, how fun to see you. Yusuf was one of our fabulous youth volunteers in the West Bank and Nablus, and then staff, and such a gem. So thank you for being here, Yusuf. So Serena, we're going to talk a little bit about the power, maybe the magic of coaching. And I asked you here to do it. I'll give you a little intro. Everyone, Serena Williams is fabulous. You can see her name. You can find her on LinkedIn. She's brilliant. So I won't give you that bio, but I will tell you my experience of Serena over the last year, working with her and learning from her. A spoiler for any of you who are lucky enough to work, Serena she warned me this, but she comes out with time. She hides, there's a lot there that she doesn't necessarily lead with. But the thing that Serena, in one of our last live conversations was you talked about hospitality, that it's always been about hospitality for you. And in some ways that has been kind of the traditional industry definition of hospitality. She's a bartender, she's a massage therapist, right? So there are those versions of hospitality and service. But to me, it was just so resonant in our shared work of coaching and of retreat leading. There is nothing more hospitable in the sense of receiving people and holding space for people to do transformation, which is the magic that I see of coaching. And so the blend of the intellectual with the soul that you have got and that you bring to that is just incredible. And so it was a no-brainer to invite you here to really parry with me on this conversation, this portion of the conversation about the magic of coaching. So thank you for being you and for being here.
So beautiful. Thank you, Nell. And thanks for having me. I think when you did the reach out and the call out, I had already told you I can't wait to read the book. I'll help you with the book and the workbook any particular way that I can. And, I just kind of said, Nell, you're so multifaceted, but also in the way in which I got to experience you in the intense coaching program, being in a place where you can take some things off, take some labels off, be able to just show up yourself and think about, in your work life, but like the dog mom and the looking forward to marriages and working with horses and people and, try these techniques and you should try this index and let's look at this tool. All of the things that you bring, I think, as I was just listening from backstage, really point right back to curiosity. And that not only do you remain curious about the work that you're doing and how you're doing it, but who you're doing it with. And so your own growth, but when you're in spaces with people, I watched you be in one-on-ones and with small groups and a little bit larger groups, the curiosity and the observation and the paying attention and really not letting the assumptions lead you into your interactions with the people that you were having.
Thank you. I think that's I am so grateful to this decade of wandering that I did, in retrospect, purposefully, exploring leadership and stuff, but for sure to be an expat in Paris and Tokyo, and then Nablus, Palestine, and then Rome, and then, Mozambique, urban and rural, and then come back to New York as kind of a stranger, really, is totally what I credit with that. I mean, chicken and egg, right? But so thank you I really appreciate you seeing that. It totally resonates with how I want to be seen. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine that's the way you end up showing up in the book, and everything is the curiosity leading.
I'm so curious. I had to write 221 pages of questions for you all. So warning, buyer beware. So Serena, we're going to dip into it. I'm guessing, I know Michael and a lot of other people here have either are coaches in their own right or have experience with coaching in really fabulous ways. But, for folks who aren't yet, hi, Renee, thank you. Another fabulous coach. M. Clay, a magnificent coach and transformation conversationalist. So good. What is coaching? Let's just start there.
Ooh. I feel like a loaded question, like even when I hear like, what is coaching? Because that really resonates to me, because I find myself explaining the type of coaching I do more and more these days, right? Because even in the program, doing the unlearning and the relearning of coaching. And so in my world, I do non-directive coaching, but I think about the first experience of coaching is usually a sports coach, which is very directive coaching, like grab the bat, do this, turn this way,
faster,
just this way. Yeah, exactly. And more so thinking about what does that mean in this world, in this context, and, looking at having some ethics behind it, really believing that my client comes to me whole and has many of the answers that they're seeking. They just haven't had the right question asked or the right environment provided where they thought they could be honest and vulnerable and not judged for perhaps what it is they're seeking that may not align with the environment they've been exposed to previously. Yeah. And so I think coaching is really creating safe spaces for a client who needs to fully see themselves where they are, has a goal of where they like to reach, and needs some assistance to move from where they are to where they want to be. Yeah. And they need that assistance in a way that is true and most mirrored like, so they can fully see themselves and supported in the journey, because I think you and I both know that coaching creates some really varied emotions when you're going through it. And we need support when we're going through the emotions, even if that support is silent. Yeah. And space to just be what it is, feel what you're feeling, experience that without somebody pushing you through that and trying to get you to okay or get over it or make the decision, right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of supportive environment, but that
Mm.
is propelling and moving you forward
Mm.
to what it is or where it is you
Mhm.
like to be or what you like to become.
Yeah. So beautiful. And how basic, right? And on one hand, I think this hit me early in the program of all of us being together, learning to be coaches. Some of us had come from coach-ish backgrounds and others were brand new to it, right? Really fabulous, diverse group that you all gather. Um, but I remember thinking like, God, good news, bad news. Like this is so basic. What we're offering to people to be heard and to have feelings not without being judged. Right? Well, I mean, that should just be a human right. And the fact that it's not is heartbreaking, is heart-wrenching, and that when I think about work being healthy and fair, that's part of the story. And not work should not be our everything. That is the point of my 6 spheres of impact. It is very intentional that there are other places. And I'm having this great conversation with brilliant Chief People Officer Grace Zemchik, who is at now Cotopaxi after Chobani, right? So these deeply purpose-driven, impactful companies, and she is very much part of that. But she's saying they're having this conversation with these people who come to Cotopaxi, deeply values aligned, very purpose-driven, very high impact, and so forth. But they're like, okay, but we're not all though. Like you have a whole pie of life. We can't do
Mhm.
the whole thing for you. So there's that. But anyway, I digress. But the point about that is it just should be a human right. Everyone should have that in some way or another. And maybe that's through a coach, maybe that's ideally just a good friend or a colleague, who can offer it. Because I also realize it isn't easy, right? We all have a lot going on. And so it's not easy to be just to be non-judgmental is not easy. When we're tired, we're stressed, we're overwhelmed, we're sick, we have grown up in the media onslaught that projects judgment onto ourselves and onto the people around us. So I guess the question that leads me to is, I think in some way we share a fundamental belief that like coaching is for everyone. Everyone come get
Mhm.
it, and there's different flavors and everything, but it's also not for everyone at every moment. How do you kind of help leaders work out, is it time to look for a coaching engagement?
Sure. Um, I think a couple of things. So I do think coaching is for everyone, but everyone's not ready for coaching. And
Uh,
so there is a coaching readiness that needs to really be evaluated, which because coaching is all about you,
hmm,
it's a little bit of that self evaluation before you even jump into it. So getting ready, like, are you ready to make some changes? Because some of us are change adverse. And if you're change adverse, there's no need to go talk with the coach because that's kind of what they are there to do, is to help facilitate that.
yeah, yeah.
Do you have the time to put in? Are you going to, value yourself and do that block of time with your coach, whether it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour? Are you going to, commit to that and the
Mm,
frequency? Are you experiencing some things that just aren't clear to you where you need to
mm,
gain some clarity? And, are you willing to look at yourself? Because that's like really what it's about. And so I think sometimes the question might be, I love when you said easy, and I was thinking the word simplicity,
uh,
because just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy. And I think that was my nuance there. I was like, yeah, it's a simple technique or design, but it doesn't mean it's easy. And so, are you ready to really have the mirror in front of you to watch you take that deep breath before you get ready to talk about whatever that particular thing is, and have them notice, like, oh, you were talking about life just fine. And then all of a
yeah,
sudden you were like, and let's talk about, that thing.
yeah.
And really ready to discover more about yourself and have more self awareness
Mhm.
so that you can not only be truthful with yourself, but really open to what's the new way that you
Mm.
are trying to design.
Mhm. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. So the natural output, we learn obviously through stories. Tell me one of your favorite. I know you've changed so many lives through your coaching. What's a favorite impact story?
Oh my goodness. I've had quite a few. Just interesting enough, but most recently, I'm working with the executive who said, I thought I'd get with you for a couple of weeks, even though we signed, a lengthy engagement. And I thought I would master one thing and then build upon that. Now we're
Smart.
probably at the 4-month coaching mark when they revealed this information to me because I had no idea. And they said, but what I'm learning is this thing I keep thinking I'm going to master, it's just going to occur every day. And I'm not going to master it. I have to learn that this is not something you master. This is something that you make a decision on and make the best decision on
Mhm.
every single day.
Mm.
So when I changed my expectation from mastery to best decision, then I um, was able to reset my mind and now come in here and continue working on me
Yeah.
and not mastering a thing and then a thing and then a thing. And
Right.
so I think oftentimes, for me, seeing the light bulbs go off, seeing the application that comes, seeing what they're learning and using in that space and seeing the perspective
Mm.
change is so
Mm.
powerful because that client came back and said, and now when I open my mind up to it, I'm
Mm.
able to apply what I've learned not only at work, which is where we started,
Sure.
but at home and with
Uh-huh.
my parents and with my grown children and in my girlfriend time and my guy friend time and life. And so
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best things um, now is when your clients realize, just like you're saying, work should be, life should be, and work's just a component of it. And you'll learn so many things in going first that you can take to work, certainly,
Sure.
but that you can take anywhere with you in this life
Yeah.
and apply it and really think about what's that look like? What's that feel like? What can I do and do it anyway? And do
Mm.
it scared and do it anxious and do it thinking I might fail or do it and think only one person might show up to this live, but I'm going to do it anyway. And keep doing in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And what a powerful example. We could do this probably with any of them, but with that one, it's so obvious and powerful to me as someone who has been a boss, as someone who has had bosses, right? But imagine, so in the me, that was amazing, right? Because that person is now turned on by life and willing, knowing that they can fail and just coming with to make the best decision every day, not be perfect, right? What pressure we
Mhm.
all, so many of us put on ourselves to be perfect. Again, especially the most purpose driven among us. But really obvious ladder to the we dimension of we've all worked for bosses who are okay with not perfection and okay with experimenting to fail. And we've probably worked with bosses or colleagues who aren't. And the latter are really tough because they're unforgiving to themselves, which is brutal for everyone around, and they're unforgiving to us, right? And that just doesn't feel good. So, immediately that client has that aha about, okay, it's not about mastery. I'm not just going to tick off the skills and become that good leader with the 10 things that HBR says I must have, or McKinsey, love you, Amy. Right? There's not this kind of list of things that a leader has that
Mhm.
I'm just going to master by working with a coach. Ta-da! I'm just going to make the best possible decisions. That, as a manager, is a lot more inviting, is a lot more motivating to learn and grow. And by the way, there's just no way, in a company that's trying to figure out, what do we do with the supply chain? How do we make it fair? How do we ensure we don't have a factory burn down and kill a ton of people wherever
Right.
it might be, right? If you're not willing to fail, it's really, those are massive changes, And so if you don't have that, if you have this expectation of mastery, well, it's done the way it is and it's ISO 2001 compliant, we're good. If you're willing to just, get a little better and make a slightly better decision every day, that's powerful. So great example.
Mm-hmm.
We're almost at time for transition, and my fabulous partners, Mark and Neil, are backstage. So we're going to shift to teamwork in a moment. But before I let you go, Serena, we have to bring it back to the book. We're here to talk about the book, everyone tells me. So how does going first, in your experience of starting to flip through, I'm guessing you're not through cover to cover because there's a lot, although having done law school, I'm sure you're quite an eager and able reader. Share a piece that you've loved so far from the book or the playbook.
I, really just love the parts of digging in to our values.
Mm.
For me, now, no matter what work I'm doing, you started out with it. It's a service, it's hospitality, it's me tending to you. And being able to reflect on that, to tap into what are my own core values? What does my identity really stem from? How do I show up, whether I'm being paid or not being paid? And what really brings me joy? Just being able to, I think, really sit with that and think about how that affects the way I lead, the way I live, the way I think about my purpose. Um, Really, for me, I was able to sit with that in that perspective and then think about, how do my values and what I've learned just in sitting with that lead me to be courageous? Um, and I was just thinking about that, even um, going first. There's courage in going first. Um, there's anxiety that comes with going first. There are fears. There are obstacles. There's like the abyss of the unknown in going first. And you could really talk yourself out of it if you gave yourself too much time.
Yeah.
But if you align the thing that you're doing or that you're contemplating doing with the core values and the reason you were put on this earth in the first place, I for me, I found courage in the contemplation and that and the questions asked and the story shared to say, well, if I don't do it, will I be empty? Will I be what we think about when they say, all the treasures are in the graveyard, all of the unused skills and talents die with people? And so for me, I just think about, if I can tap into the values, if I can tap into that purpose, then I can gain that courage and strength to do the thing, to go first. And, not only think of what could happen if it went wrong, but think about what could happen if it goes right.
Thank you. I didn't script that, guys. Serena took that out of the book all on her own, but such powerful. That's exactly the nugget. And thank you for bringing it back to that's exactly what it is. So I talk about going first. And I want to clarify, like, it is not, I try to come up with a new one every time. It is not about being the first from your zip code to go to a 4-year school and progress to a fully subsidized PhD to then win a Nobel in RNA splicing or whatever, right? It doesn't have to be these grandiose, huge things. It's like, today in this meeting, I'm going to be the first person to suggest that we take a moment of silence because the company just went through an acquisition and it's really rocky, or there was some news in our town or globally, or I'm going to be the first to suggest that we, I don't know, don't buy physical presents for Christmas this year and, do experiences instead, or whatever it is in any of your 6 spheres of impact, right? In any way through your work and life, just little, or maybe it's big for you, or maybe it's big in any scheme, right? But again, reduce that pressure and just do that one little thing that, exactly to your point, ensures that your skills and talents don't go to the graveyard unused, right? And I talk about, be the person who your dog knows you are, for those of you who are dog owners out there, or who you want your future grandchildren or current grandchildren to think, or just abstractly, how do you want to be a good ancestor, right? And so I think it's that opportunity to that is motivating, exactly as you said. And that's where I really see purpose as the driver of that action, right? Which is why we start there. And the final piece that I have to say is my greatest hope for this. And so when we get into sharing, some of the bonuses, and all of you who are here, again, I can't wait till all these chatters are in some room or some Zoom at some point together. There is an emerging community, right? Hala's point that I shared at the start, it is a portal moment. It's not just a paradigm shift in the way we do business. We're headed into a whole new reality in which humanity comes first. We're not doing that alone. Nobody's doing that alone. Not Richard Branson, not Serena, not Hallie Dewey. Hi, Hallie Dewey, who is the beautiful bride who has her celebration of saying yes to the dress today, which is so exciting. Congrats, Hal. But there is a community founding around this, and it's so exciting. I'm doing a session on Thursday with the Changing Work Collective, so like-minded. I'm going to dinner tonight with Conscious Capitalism Connecticut and the Be Local Connecticut group. All of you on the chat, right? In all of our different ways going first. So the vision that I have to get there, I know we have to do this together, right? So it's going first does not mean alone. It just means in your way, in your space. So thank you for calling that out and prompting that little ring out from me on this. Serena, thank you for being you. It is such a joy to have gotten to know you and learn from you and work with you. And I look forward to more. Your LinkedIn profile was there for folks earlier. So please connect with Serena. Look at her retreats, look at her work, bring her into your company, all of the fabulous things. She's got some more on the horizon that I won't spoil, but encourage you to stay tuned.
Thanks, Nell. Congratulations again. Congratulations.
Thank you. See you very soon.
All right.
All right, y'all. Well, that was a perfect tee up into sort of the second half of the title, to lead purposefully and inspire action, which is exactly what we do at Purpose Fused. And so we have my brilliant partners backstage, but I'm going to honor our purposeful break. So we're going to take just like 90 seconds or 2 minutes. We talk about these in Purpose Fused in one of our programs, Live and Lead with Purpose. We help people map out what's your typical day look like right now, and then what does an ideal day look like, and what are the repurposing of hours that you can get to. Actually has turned out to be an incredible outcome of the program, with real bottom line effect, right? Imagine you're the leader of a 3,000 person company, and now everyone in the firm has repurposed 6 or 7 hours a week to do more of what they are at their best doing. So we have all kinds of math. Maybe Mark will shout it out for us when he gets on stage. But the point is that, even just in your own life, imagine getting 6 hours where you are more at your best. That would be cool. So what we're going to do now, my invitation, is to do a little physical challenge, right? We did the mental first of kind of grounding and breathing. Do a physical challenge. Get down and plank if you can. Most of us, if you're in public and that's embarrassing, don't. Maybe just do a wall sit subtly. Or I'm going to get some water, do a wall sit, do a plank, do something else. Michael, run up the stairs to your meeting instead of taking the elevator. Whatever it is, get your body moving. And we know those endorphins are powerful, and physical health is the key. So see you in like 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and we will be back with Purpose Fused. Hi, Alexis. Are we just talking between us now? All right, here we are. I am confessing that I did not do a wall sit or a plank in that little break, but I got some water. Hydration is important. And I had a very hard workout with my trainer this morning. So I'm going to take credit for that physical activity. So I am so excited to welcome Mark Griffin and Nell Turnham, who are my partners in Purpose Fused. Mark and Nell are the founding partners. Mark and I worked together like 12 years ago, I think we're counting now-ish, in New York, in our former lives in the social impact space, current lives, former chapters. And I am just trying to catch up to these guys, like 3-ish decades of deep knowledge of each other and still friendship from what I can see. So congrats on that, guys.
Yeah, we'll celebrate our 35th anniversary in a year or something.
I mean, these flowers are for 7. So Nell, you've got to really like blow up the flowers for 35.
Best get plastic ones now.
Too good. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the group work. Again, it really is that second half of the title, right? So we talked about going first, the invitation to find courage with Serena. And now it's really about, okay, now we've got some courage. We're ready. We're stepping out in our way. We're going to lead purposefully, which inspires action. And, you know, I said briefly, you'll hear more. Mark and I both have a very kind of explicitly social impact background in the not-for-profit space. Nell is a board member of a very powerful not-for-profit now. But this is not just about, you know, the curing cancer, erasing racism, reforesting the Amazon, which are all great things, but really our concept of impact is very broad, right? And so it's about making healthier, fairer workplaces as a start. But so we do teamwork in this. We work with leadership teams. We just got off a huge engagement, really fabulous, with a big fast moving consumer good company working with like 240 people in their marketing and insights team to build purpose into it, which is very cool. So we're gonna share a little bit more about that. But again, by way of intros, you can find these guys. We'll share LinkedIn profiles and all of their very impressive Queen issued and other credentials are visible out there for you. But the intros I want to share we'll do kind of a round robin. And so just the human sides of what it's like to work with each other. So I'll intro you, Mark, since I've known you a bit longer, and then Mark to Nell and Nell to me. So Mark is, you know, we work together. His nonprofit was a client of my last company, Inspiring Capital. And I, you know, just was really no nonsense. Like there was no mistake in my mind. I didn't know the depth of his athletic prowess necessarily when we were first working together. But the rigor and the determination that you bring to work is none other than a global level athlete. I mean, it's just, you know, it's impossible to ignore. And it is such a joy. It is so powerful to work with you behind the scenes as a partner, but then to see how that ripples out in the work that we do with clients is just really amazing. And to see the little bits that I see with your kiddos and how that makes you, as you self-identify, an old dad doing the young kid thing. I have no doubt that your determination and the physical ability are more than enough, even if you're maybe a decade behind. So anyway, I'll leave it there, and folks can read about your technical creds online. But yeah, just really impressive level of energy and determination that you bring to everything. So thanks for letting me be part of that.
Thank you, Nell. I was just going to say that from an athlete perspective, the rule is the older I get, the better I was. But you want the opposite in life, right? So I'm aspiring to get better with every day, every year. So Neil, right? Let's see. Well, yeah, I've known him.
What are you going to say?
Oh well, what's not to say? Yeah, I've known Neil for nearly 35 years, and Neil's come from a kind of recruiting background through to HR, and spent a number of years in HR working on culture and organizational design, as well as all of the other elements you have to do to kind of organize people's benefits and keep them with the things they need to perform at their best. Neil then realized that he wanted to take some of the fun bits from that piece and the less of the pieces that he didn't want to do to focus on what mattered most to him, and did a bit of consulting work for a few years and became a PCC level executive coach. And so Neil's just got this really depth of experience in the people focused space. He knows what matters most. He enables people to focus on those things for themselves, but also kind of tie those to the broader organizational structure. And so it's been brilliant to work with him. We're complementary in terms of our natural energies, and how we look at things and focus and prioritize on things. And Neil will also bring a nice, sharp London accent and a little bit of banter to some of his work as well, if you like.
All of it.
Here.
All of it. It's got to be enjoyable, otherwise you wouldn't do it, right? Right, Nell, congratulations. Thank you for having us on your virtual couch. What do I know about Nell from our short time working together? Was it? Why did you say short time? It's probably a year and a half now, isn't it?
I think we're like 2.5. I think you might missed a calendar year. Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, look, I likened this last time we were in the States, actually. I said, well, how do we fit together as a team whilst we're talking about team perspectives? And I said, Mark's the kind of rock, right? I must be the gin, which leaves Nell as the effervescent tonic, really, to fill in all the gaps where we leave behind. And I think the book and everything I've learned certainly does that, from the perspective of everything which we're probably going to touch on a bit later on, which appears in the book, and all the things which I think just go to what we do as an organisation, which is help people kind of work from the inside out on their purpose discovery. We don't overlay stuff and prescribe ways of thinking, etc. It really is down to individuals working through their own journey from however back they want to go, through to what really matters to them today. And Nell's tools in the book help you do that. And we readily use some of them on our in our work. So there we go, Nell. How's that?
Perfect tee up. I appreciate it. Thanks, Neil. But what is purpose fused? Mark, you started this madness. Just tell us briefly about what purpose fused is.
Yeah, I mean, we consider ourselves to be premium level kind of purpose and performance coaches. So what that means is working with leaders and teams to help people identify how, when, and why they're absolutely at their best, and bring more of that to every day and support and empower other people in bringing that to their broader work. And the premium aspect of it is kind of purely like on demand or in need or as appropriate, fitting that coaching work within the broader context within which it needs to sit to be effective, whether that be advising around culture and values or employee experience or employee value propositions, like anything really that is the context surrounding people that enables them to align more of their natural best self to what they're contributing on a day-to-day basis. So that's the nuts and bolts of what we do.
Awesome. Love it. And then energy came up in the last conversation. Again, it comes up in a lot of our work. It comes up in all of our days, right? Clearly, we've got it. We don't have it. It's flagging. It's strong. And so one of the tools, I love it. It comes into some of the horse work that I do that we've also alluded to some here. But a tool that we all use together is the GC index, which literally measures our natural energy for certain forms of contribution. But Neil, you talk about it so well. Do you want to just share what is the GC index, this thing that we use?
Yeah, the GC index is an assessment, although what I like about it isn't a personality assessment. It profiles 5 what's called proclivities, which are the ways in which you feel most energized to make your contribution and subsequent impact. And not only do you learn about yourself through that assessment process and the kind of reports that we go through with people, but also it's very applicable to team working of any scale, really. And we've delivered several kind of team impact workshops to use those insights in terms of, well, how do people kind of work together and best contribute and bring themselves in a most effective way to a team, whilst acknowledging the other things. Thank you, Nathan. The other thing, do feel free to
No
correct me as
pressure.
well.
One of the founding team of the GC Index, as Neil gives the
Nathan, who's just put that on the bottom, wrote it, so maybe he should be doing
Who's the
this
chief
bit.
polisher? Yeah.
He is indeed.
Feel free to polish this description, Nathan.
Afterwards. So yeah, I mean, it's really complementary to what we do and how we work, from the perspective of, well, when you have your purpose plan, which is the manifestation of kind of 12 weeks of our Live and Lead with Purpose program, when you've got that, how are you actually going to go and live and lead with purpose on a day-to-day basis in your life and work? So you need the roadmap and the guide to take you on your journey, but you also need to be thinking about the application of, well, how's that going to happen? And that's what I like about the GC Index. It isn't a profile which you get a bunch of reports and put them in your bottom drawer. It's, well, what are we going to do to make that actually happen and achieve that activation of the plan, and then the kind of slower burn of living it through. So
totally
there's the whistle stop of the GC Index.
So
contact Nathan.
Yeah, exactly, for the details. What our next, well, Mark, anything you want to add? I want to talk about kind of impact stories and success stories that we've seen with it. So that's a good way to get to GC Index. But anything textbook that you would add to the description of GC Index, or why you love it?
The one thing I always love about it is the fact that the way people traditionally get kind of measured and supported and encouraged and promoted at work is, you can see people's personality and it gets measured all the time. And it's very clear what people's kind of learned behaviors are around their skills and their experiences and their title and the things that kind of got them there, because that's generally what gets measured in a business that drives performance directly. And so measuring energy, which is more of this kind of hidden thing, but guess what, we all have it, is such a powerful and unique tool. And furthermore, from a practical perspective, what I love about it is that everyone feels comfortable talking about it. It's not about me as a person. It's not about my experience. It's actually about this thing, which is how I like to get stuff done. And when I'm energized and enthusiastic, why wouldn't I want to talk about that? So what I think is brilliant is it's so simple. The language is so simple. It resonates with everyone, and everyone wants to talk about it. Well, what better way to embed a performance-related tool into an organization than people being open to having conversations about it? So that's one of the best pieces, I think, that is why it fits so well with our work and that practice. He was talking about.
No, I love that. I love it. I'm a huge fan of it. I just put we'll share a Forbes article that I just did with one of the other founding team members of GC Index, Dr. John Mervyn Smith, and we taught the title that we came up with was A Leadership Revolution, because it really, I mean, they're very mission driven. They share that with us, which is one of the parts that's so fun about working with GC Index. But they have this mission to empower 10% of humanity with a deeper understanding of their own energy. And what John and I came to, we were talking about the book, and in my book, the framework is the spheres of impact, which we've talked about, those different areas that you have to make an impact. Then combined with the spectrum of impact, which is kind of breaking up the economy, like where are you going to do these things, whether that's in the public sector, very powerful, the not-for-profit sector, which again, we know has massive, potential for change, but also the business for good or conscious business, right? Jen Gorin was here from Be Local and our community of B Corps, or the corporate sector, right? Just the mainstream private sector. And so what John and I realized was you have kind of the where you're going to do something, in the economy externally. You have the when in your life. Those are the spheres. Is this a family thing? Is this a community thing? And then you have the how of your GC Index energy. And so it's yet another 3 dimensions to my 3dperformancegroup.com, that new entity of 3 dimensions. You have the MeWe world, but this was a really cool aha of like, oh, right, there's, there are these other 3 dimensions of really concretely how we're going to activate this purpose, which is what it's all about. So you can check out that Forbes article there. And then Nathan, generously, thank you. They're so good. They just promote their partners like us all the time. Best organization to partner with. Let's get back. We don't have too much more time on our clock, but if you guys can give me 5 or 6 more minutes of your days. Again, stories. Tell me one of your favorite stories of impact out of our programs, out of your individual coaching through Purpose Fused, out of GC Index, insights, individual or team. Tell me some things you've seen change.
Oh, yeah, I've got a story. I call it the pumpkin patch. I received it. Yeah,
you're so on
yeah.
point here with Halloween. Thank you, Neil.
Always on it. I call it the pumpkin patch because that's effectively what it was. It was someone that went through our Live and Lead with Purpose program. Well, one in the early days actually, and he gave me a call about, I don't know, it was this time last year. So there'd probably been a kind of gap of a year. Just phoned me up out the blue from the States. I'm having my lunch over here in Hertfordshire. Hi, how you doing? I'm like, yeah, great. He said, I just want to phone you up and let you know about something that I did. And okay, so what was it? Long story short, had a small holding. One of the things in his sort of purpose plan was I want to turn that small holding over to be a pumpkin patch for the local community and all the kids and everybody in my little town to come over and do the pumpkin picking and have a really great day. And that is exactly what he worked towards with his wife and did, and had a record bumper gate of people turning up to his pumpkin patch and phoned me up to tell me a year after we'd had that conversation. And that was probably my call of the year. And it was very, very short. I felt so good about that for him and for us. And yeah, there you go. There's my impact story, which isn't mine, but I love it.
But you were part of it, right? That's
Indeed.
The ripple. And
Thank you, Nell.
And you heard about it. He cared enough about your role in it to come back and tell you.
There you go. Thanks, Nell. Thanks for the linkage. Yeah,
I got you. I'm a dot connector. I'm a strategist, what the GC Index would say. But that's the kind of stuff that I think we're talking about. And again, it's easy to, amid the media landscape of today and everything, right? It's easy to be like, oh, I built a pumpkin patch. Like, how goofy and mundane is that, right? And the climate change is still a thing. And I'm sure Halloween is somehow culturally out of date or inappropriate. Like, I shouldn't tell anyone about the pumpkin patch. But the joy that was created, I'm sure there was some carbon captured by those pumpkin plants rather than whatever was in that spare lot before, right? But the joy, the support, the conversations that happen between those neighbors who now will, I don't know, watch each other's kids or watch the street for, litter or whatever it is. They're just these little things that bring joy and connection are not little, and they're not, they're not silly. They're worth celebrating. They're worth doing. They have impact. There's one of my first real intellectual crushes was Robert Putnam, who's a social scientist and still writing, but he talks about social capital. And so he did this study that there were these communities in the US where heart disease was like out of control. And so people were dying of heart disease at really unprecedented high rates. And one of the things that he linked scientifically, statistically significant, was social activity, and specifically bowling leagues had crashed in these places. So people were literally bowling alone. They were not bowling together anymore and connecting and talking over the pumpkin patch or over whatever. And that is bad for our heart health. Like, there's tons of medical studies about that. Loneliness is the current, epidemic post-COVID, according to the Surgeon General of the US. It's real. So here's to a good pumpkin patch. Keep them coming.
There we are. Better than a patch of weeds.
Better than a patch of weeds. Definitely better carbon capture, I promise. Mark, how about you?
I can continue on the social capital theme, actually. My example speaks to why I do what I do now, even though it's now 15 years ago. But and it's about multiplying the ripple effect through vital connections. And again, that speaks to why I do what I do now with leaders. But back then I was doing it with kids. And so I brought this guy over from the UK in 2007, a guy called Dom, and I could speak to multiple people that I've worked with for many years that have made a huge impact. Never thought he was going to come over to the US. He had a professional rugby career. I just thought there was no way he was going to kind of leave that on hold and come over here to work with kids in New York City, delivering rugby into schools, right? But he did, and he chose to come over, and he embraced it with curiosity and passion, and this just a very authentic desire to master his craft. Became an incredible coach, changed hundreds and hundreds of kids' lives, trained a bunch of teachers. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I'm going back to New York City this weekend to celebrate him, because he's being inducted into a Hall of Fame for the rugby club that he played with, which is one of the best teams in the country, that then became head coach of. He's now head coach of a top level university in the US and one of the All-American teams for the USA national team. But most importantly, his whole focus was on helping people be the best they could be. And this sort of this weight that he's left behind him of all of these young people that have gone on and really broken the poverty cycle, like gone to college, many of them come back and coach themselves, is just this incredible testament to this sort of ripple impact of me just wanting to bring somebody over to help elevate the opportunities for my organization, but then by me supporting him, this sort of effect that he's ended up having. And that's the same thing as just sort of supporting leaders being the best they can be because of the impact they can have on a daily basis, in their organization. So another timely example, but less pumpkin-y.
No, it's so good. And the other thing it brings up, I think, is something that I did a special project on with Serena from our last conversation in my coach training around coaching with an activity. And it's somewhat related to the work I do with horses and obviously the work that you did so deeply with rugby. But I think it highlights a really cool thing related to this notion of all the different spheres of impact and the interconnections between them, right? Because, as far as I understand, your point with Play Rugby was not to kind of create a pipeline for the USA rugby team, right? It wasn't about creating incredible rugby players. It was about the fact that, like you experienced as a kid, being asked to be captain, not necessarily for your athletic prowess, though that was part of the story, but just for your leadership, spilled over into your dad saying, well, you got to be a good student if you're going to be captain on the field, right? You have to lead everywhere. And so I think that point is so powerful and why it matters that, who knows, Neil, I don't know how much you're in touch with that pumpkin patch owner's professional career, but, I can guess that the pride and the self-efficacy that comes from building the pumpkin patch, or in these kids' cases, learning to play rugby and the discipline that requires and the endorphins of the physical exercise and the challenge and the teamwork that they learned. That's why they went to college, right? And so I think that's such a powerful thing when we think about our spheres of impact and the things that we want to do in life. It is also interrelated, and so again, thank you, Faye, choosing to shop differently in a way that aligns more closely with our values or shift our tiny, though it may be, IRA in absolutely connects back to these other parts of our impact and purpose. So I love the rugby example for that. I have a quick success story that I'm going to share, and I'll give you guys a minute to tee up the pages that you picked from Going First or the playbook to share. And then we are going to get to Amber and go behind the scenes on the book, which is very fun. So the story of impact I wanted to share from our purpose-fused work is it also pulls in the GC index. And so I wanted to illustrate that as well. So one of our, kind of mid-level, sort of C-2 level participants at this big fast-moving consumer goods company did, as all of our partners and clients there did, this GC index. And so you don't need to know all about it, but basically it has, it kind of helps us understand which of the 5 natural forms of contribution to a team or a project we are most inclined to contribute. And so in her case, it was about new ideas. It was about game changing, right? Which is where the GC index name comes from in a really cool way. I won't share the backstory because it's about all the energies, but that is the initial seed was, some people change the game. They have these out of the box ideas and it's not more valuable than other forms of contribution, but it's a starting point. So she had this really high score in that energy. And for her, as we were going through coaching, it was this realization of like, wow, this role is not about changing the game. It is not about new out of the box ideas. It's actually about kind of executing, keeping quality safe and good, and a lot of internal stuff. So that's why I'm so burnt out. That's why I'm feeling so exhausted. And so we're like, okay, well, this role makes a lot of sense right now for a lot of reasons. It's, part of the career ladder. She liked her colleagues a lot. They were getting things done, moving the needle. She had young kids. So, the stability was helpful. And so she realized that she knew, but she pointed out, gosh, I also am a designer. I make clothes and patterns and fabrics and sell them in a little store as a side hustle. I need to do that because sometimes at the end of the night, I feel too tired and burnt out to do that. But actually, that's going to fill my tank. Doing that extra hour of creative work is going to really juice my game changer energy and be better than going to bed early without having done that creative piece. So great. So she's doing this. It's going really well. We catch up in a coach. She's like, yeah, it's amazing. I feel better. It's an hour less of sleep some days, but I'm so jazzed by what I'm making. I bring my daughter in. She wants to learn to sew. She helps design. So I get family quality time that I was missing. Really, really cool. And then she comes into a coaching session a few weeks after that, and she's so jazzed. And she's like, no, this is so great. And what she's done is take an existing thing that the company had, but flip it. And for the first time ever, structure these purposeful assignments that they do, which are, kind of stretch assignments. A lot of companies work with that, but they have a really formal, fabulously, really smart framework for it, that she made a maternity leave cover. And so instead of just scrambling and getting the team to cover all the pieces of this person who was going to be out on parental leave, which stresses everybody out, adds to the work pile, she made it a purposeful assignment for someone new to step in and do, which exactly fits actually the purposeful assignment format. Doesn't put any extra work on other people's shoulders, brings a new person into the team, blah, 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 just fabulous. And got her creative juices going to do something totally out of the box and around the corner thinking. So just such a fun thing, right? She then wrote a whole letter to all the VPs in the company. This is what I did. Try it yourself. So there's all these ripples. Very, very cool. And really, got her GC game changer energy flowing in a really empowering, energy giving way, actually, in what could have, on the other hand, been just overwhelm and extra burden. So a story I love. But with that, back to going first. Jump in. Who can't hold back from sharing your favorite page?
Pages, Nell. Pages, plural.
Pages. Neil,
Yeah.
Pick your top. We'll do a separate live stream on all the other 37.
Community spheres is my
Mm.
favorite. Because I just think firstly, it's a visual and pragmatic model, which I think if you're doing your thinking right, gets to the heart of the issue really visibly. And for me, when I completed it, it's pretty obvious what I was neglecting, even though I probably hadn't really thought about that until I looked at it after having been through the whole spheres thing and gone, yeah, I kind of knew that. And that was community, actually. And it showed up straight away. So that got me thinking, just kind of had my antenna up for what could I do that did hit on my passions, did hit on the interest level, and everything that was actually going to fill me up and provide me personally with a bit of me impact, but at the same time as sort of delivering that more widely from the point of view of, well, what good can I do with it, and so what's the so what to anybody else, because I wasn't really thinking about that. But in thinking about that more and just being aware of some opportunities which came up, I did get one which I actually was hugely passionate about, which is what I'm doing now, which is I'm a trustee of a charity called Metal for Good, which uses the kind of subgenre culture of metal and rock music communities to fund social impact projects for people that share those kind of values and alignment with the culture. Who frankly haven't got the same chances and opportunities as some other people. If I want to go to a gig, I'll pick up, I'll go on the internet, I'll buy a ticket, I'll go with my friends, and that's that. Yeah. Just break that down. You've got to buy a ticket. You've got to actually get there. You've got to have accessibility to actually get inside the venue. You've got to have friends to go with. You've got to, break that down. There's a lot of things which we take for granted, which other people. That's just one of the projects which we've actually funded as of last week. Via one of our grants that we've been doing. So look, that whole community sphere was the activator for me for thinking about it, and overlaying that with our purpose for use sort of content in terms of, well, what am I passionate about?
Yeah.
What impact do I want to have, and what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
I.e. application. So
So good. So good. And
There's
two
my
pieces.
area, Nell.
Well, that's a great
my favourite.
answer, Neil, since without any coaching or guidance, you did it all on your own, but there's two pieces I want to call out. And one is that piece of realizing that gap, right? And that's exactly what the framework is designed to do. Again, it's not about reinventing the wheel or redefining purpose. It's not about convincing you to be purposeful. You're doing that very well on your own, but it's just a simple dashboard of like, drop all the stuff in my life that I do that I feel very busy from, put it all out there and look at some of the gaps, right? And you realize for good, right? Your kids are coming into now sort of middle childhood and a little more independence, but for a while, super normal. A lot of people, the stage Mark is in with 1 and 5, you're just in the grind. Like my friends who have friends, like you're just surviving. If everybody has dinner and maybe brushes their teeth most nights, like 5 stars. There is not a lot of room necessarily for community engagement, depending where job life is at, and so totally fine. It is not about getting 10 out of 10 in all 6 spheres all the time. Not the point. But what it can do is help you realize at a moment, what Serena talked about of readiness for coaching, of being ready to look in the mirror, ready to look at your dashboard and think, gosh, where am I maybe over investing? Have I really gone deep on job or workplace? Again, nothing wrong with that. Or family, maybe I have been a stay-at-home parent for a bit and really diving deep there, creating empathetic kids, encouraging them to take risks, be open-minded, like huge impact. But now let me check in with this sphere that I had neglected a little bit and see. And maybe it wouldn't have been the time for you. It was. And so then the second piece that I love to highlight is how cool a rock metal group that's enabling concerts, right? I mean, just goes right back to the version of rugby, just this totally like, God knows that US education departments see arts as totally superfluous, tragically, right? And so we're slashing budgets all over, but such powerful thing to be at live music, to hear, music, to share that, to see talent, on stage. All of these things are such powerful things. It's not superfluous at all. So I love that you found that. And I love that the spheres helped you do it.
There you go.
Yes. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, I think the similarity between the sports and the music, right, is just that they're both a vehicle, a community, an experience, and then just when you add all those things together, it's incredibly powerful from that social capital perspective. But firstly, just to say that from a purpose piece perspective, we've integrated MeWe World into core elements of all of our programming, the value in articulating your impact and actually thinking about it and being intentional about wanting to achieve that is something that I think in all of our experience, 95+% of people haven't done. It sounds so easy. It's not actually that easy, but it's incredibly powerful to do. And that's where the book's so super helpful on that. And the spheres of impact then helps you apply that, right? And look at all of these areas and say, okay, look, so here's some gaps and here's some areas where I might want to do a bit more in the community, but also just to take your foot off the brake a little bit and give yourself a bit of grace and say, I don't need to be 100% my best self in every single area 100% of the time. And that's the part of the value in it, is identifying which spheres are important to you right now and just infusing enough of your best self and impact into those on a day-to-day basis. So I just the way that fits in. But my page, to answer the question, is page 56 of the playbook. Funnily enough, and this is completely coincidental, is also about community. And the title of it is Stronger in Community. But this is specifically around the spheres of impact dashboard. And once you've gone through your A, B, C, D, E's that you may or may not have gone through. Now, I'm not sure if you went through all those already with everybody. I'm sure you have. But
good teaser.
And you've got some clarity on the impact that you want to have. Share it. That's the nutshell of that, is just share it. And your purpose, there's no point going through all this work and self-reflection and inspiring yourself and then not doing anything with it. And so it starts with sharing, having conversations, have conversations with friends and family, partners, anyone that you should know and trust, and bounce these things off them and ask them for some support, ask them for feedback, and sort of use that to start kind of building your team, but most importantly, kind of putting it into practice. And so it's a tiny little piece of all of that entire playbook. But that to me is the kickoff point, which is to start with sharing what it is that you want to start doing.
Totally. Totally. It's so powerful, right? Just as modeling, if you're a leader with people, if you're a parent with kids, if you're a human who interacts with other humans, right? Like to set that example and normalize this idea of talking about our purpose. We really don't. And I think it goes back to the conversation with Serena about simple, not easy. It's not necessarily easy to go first or to do something different or to bring up my purpose in a casual conversation, can feel awkward or weird, but it's pretty simple. It's like, what I care about is essentially what we're talking about, and so by way of segue, we'll talk in a minute about the behind the scenes process of the book. But when I was in the depths of writing the book, I would have conversations literally with baristas and Uber drivers. I don't know, people say like, what are you doing? I would not want to be looking at my phone or any screen because I was like in writing mode for hours a day. And so I would chat with drivers, which is not always my move, but the coffee guy or the driver person would say, what do you do? I'm a writer. What do you write about? I write about purpose. And and it would start these conversations. And of course I have all of my bias and all of my skepticism of, this is a privileged thing and people aren't just walking around thinking about their purpose. No. I had some of the richest, best conversations out of 150 conversations with C-suite leaders and, blah, blah CEOs. These folks are like, yeah, oh, totally. I love that. Do you want to know my purpose? And of course, I'm like, yes, tell me everything. And the stories I heard about raising kids as an immigrant parent or their side hustle of music, that they were traveling to gigs all night, every night, and then driving to get the money for the ticket that Metal for Good provides some people, whatever it was, just so powerful. And so just starting those conversations, to be fair, for sure, some people were like, oh, do you want the air conditioning up or down? And I was like, okay, cool. So you're not my audience. That's fine. Get on with it, all good. But really the number of people who would just light up and be so ecstatic at the chance to share that version is just unlocked by that going first of saying, you know what, I really care about this thing. I'm going to grow a pumpkin patch. So cool.
Yeah. Power of meaningful conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you all. Shocker, we talked longer than planned and we're running a little bit late. I appreciate
Sorry to hold you up.
Either you knowing me well enough to book an extra 20 minutes on the back end of the conversation or just being flexible. But thank you guys. The work we do really is so fun and so on purpose for me, as I know for you both as well. So I appreciate your willingness to get behind the book as well and support it. And you've all seen the Purpose Fused ticker going by. So get on that newsletter. It's a great monthly read of insights from me and Mark and Neil about the work we do, about the impact that we're seeing, and with some ideas for you all in whatever roles you play in companies and communities out there. So thanks, guys. See you very soon.
Cheers,
Now,
Nell.
congrats. It's been amazing to see this come together. So it's
Thank
just
you.
Brilliant.
Thank you. We know you have a book in you, Mark, so you might want to stick around and listen to Amber V up next.
Listen back 3 years' time, yeah.
All right, take care. So moving on from Purpose Fused, next up, like I said, is the fabulous, formidable, fun, brilliant Amber V from NGNG, who has gotten me here. We are going to just keep jamming right beyond our scheduled 2:30 end because she has such great stuff to share and say. And I know, again, a lot of you have behind the scenes book stuff happening. So quick, we're going to honor the purposeful break. I'm going to encourage like an intellectual break. So for people who are able to stay or coming now, drop. So we did, kind of mental, emotional, spiritual at first, some breathing, some grounding, some celebration. Some of us did a wall sit or a plank, some kind of physical break. And so now it's back to intellect, right? Kind of the brain piece of it. What is a resource or a challenge that you need help with? Drop it into the chat. There's a really rich community. Both Amber and I are problem solvers by nature. Or share your favorite read or listen, right? A podcast that you shared. Again, I want this to be kind of a generative, peer-led and peer-enriched community. So we're going to take 90 seconds, 2 minutes. I know I need a quick break. Get some water, think of your favorite podcast, find the link, drop it in the chat, and then we will dive into the magic of books with Amber and NGNG in like 90 seconds. All right. Hi, Amber.
Hi. Oh my gosh, I think I might be more emotional than you today.
I was listening this morning. So I got to ride this morning, which was my happy place and totally delightful. I was warning Alexis that I had like a little helmet line that I had to kind of cover with my makeup. But it was the best way to start the day. And so then, it's a 35-minute drive up to the barn or whatever. So I was coming back on the highway and listening to some good hip hop music, so I had Confident playing. And I was like, what's the wrong with being confident? I was thinking of you in our conversation being like, I just don't know what to do with this energy the day before the launch that you're like not freaked out or nervous. Like, okay, let's just, yay, here we go.
And I was laughing even more, Nell, because the way that we sort of had our last day before launch is sort of how we started this thing, where Nell comes in, and I think she's absolutely fabulous the minute as she enters my Zoom room. And unlike any other client project I've ever had, any book launch, she says, I don't care about the results. I'm not here to be a bestseller. I'm not here to sell 1 million books. I'm not trying to be New York Times. I'm actually more interested in giving as many books away as I can, and I'm more interested in impact. And I was like, what? Like, no author says that usually. I get a lot of people who say, yeah, I want New York Times. I need more speaking fees. My book launch is in 2 months. What do I do, Amber? And it's a pretty stressful situation that now I'm very well equipped to manage. But not Nell. I mean, Nell truly from day one was calm, healthy, clear, just wanted to make an impact. And so even the eve before the launch, normally authors are like, what do I do? And I still have to plan my live stream, and it's tomorrow, and who should I invite? And Nell was so prepared and calm and clear and healthy and confident. And it's just been such a joy to be inspired and to be impacted by you this whole journey, where I was supposed to be supporting you. It was very mutual.
Well, very mutual. So I don't want to not get to that, which is that technically you all can find NGNG Enterprises, on the interwebs. And so again, we won't do kind of boring textbook intros because that's all there for you. Everyone on this call are very good readers and resource finders. But I will just say, God, this book has been a journey, the 15 years of kind of doing the work for the framework to emerge. I love the Mark Twain quote of, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. And I keep telling people that, I probably could still write a shorter book, but that'll be the next one. But the framework got so simple over 16 years of evolution and refinement, right? And so that's been a journey. I had a false start, no harm, no foul, with a different kind of publishing arrangement, of which there are thousands out there. So again, for those of you watching who have a book in your future, awesome. Please reach out and ask me. Please call Publish Your Purpose and Jen Grace, who's not here, but also behind the scenes, my fabulous, fabulous publisher, certified B Corp, a delightful human and a delightful partner. And then Amber and GNG, who Jen turned me on to. And I think, thank you. I take full credit and honor for the calmness. That is from my mom, who is a massage therapist and gave me foot massages every night. I was her model for infant massage as a 2-month-old. So I couldn't not be calm at this point in my life. But really the way that you were interested to understand me, which really is the book. I really do feel like this is kind of me on a page, parts of me, not all of it. And then I remember so vividly, we actually were away on the beach for a week, and we had our normal call supporting, keeping the momentum going back from May. We started April even. So just this has been a while. And you were like, oh my God, now I get it. Mm-hmm. This is complex. This is cool. This framework is like, whoa, I've never seen anything like this. And the fact that you took the time to kind of wade through and hear it in all of my very wordy, long, excited and passionate, but kind of ongoing, not necessarily concise, not elevator pitchy, which I told you the first day we talked, that you waded through that and then saw it and empowered me and just have been so supportive is 1,000% part of why I'm calm and excited and confident to be here and putting the book out into the world. So thank you for that piece of it. It is certainly mutual.
Oh my gosh. And that is honestly how I feel about it. And I work with a lot of people in business, a lot of nonfiction authors speaking to leadership or culture, a lot of personal growth and development. I mean, I'm very blessed with the people that I get to work with. But this is like next level. And it was a lot to really wrap my mind around, because it has such a wide application. It's such a wide opportunity. You can use it in so many different areas. And that's why I was sort of giggling throughout your live stream when you're asking people like, what's your favorite part? I'm like, I hope she doesn't ask me that because I'm overwhelmed with even thinking about my favorite part. I did narrow it down to, I think my focus is family sphere, by the way, and currently. And I really valued what you and Mark said earlier about you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be 100% in all the areas all the time, which that's a lot to take in for an over deliverer like myself, because I really do try to maximize my potential in every area. But all to say that this is the work that you get to take with you for the rest of your life. That's how I would describe it. You have your playbook. I've been writing in mine and marking it up, and there's chicken scratch and stuff all over the place. And that's what it's designed for. And it's cool because ever since I got the playbook and I've been reading through the book, I've had, of course, so many life experiences pop up personally, professionally, as a single mom, my family, my community. And yet I'm finding like the application for it and the prompts, the questions allow me to get where I need to go so much faster than I would have done just by, the monkey mind and the chatter and then the procrastination or avoidance or delay or whatever we humans do with those experiences. It's all so valuable. And I'm not saying that just to puff you up. It's true. And I have the perspective of people in your field to know that this is something that really needs to be shared on a wide scale, wide.
Thank you for that. And, I want to include it was prompted, but this is a good segue as well, that one part of my story, and I try to be as clear as I can about it, of that relaxedness, right? And not saying I need this to turn into client fees tomorrow or this month or this quarter. I have the massive privilege that my husband has had financial success through his life. And that's not better or worse than the success that I've done around building intellectual frameworks and social networks as experienced in this beautiful conversation. Suhad, it is so good to see you. Another dear friend and colleague from 15 years ago in the West Bank and Palestine. So thank you for tuning in. But I have massive privilege that I don't have to pay rent next month. I don't have to worry about kids' tuition fees, right? And so, and he believes deeply in me, and it's not easy for him to understand the life of an entrepreneur or the life of a writer or a coach. It's very different from what has worked so well for him. But we're able to have a partnership. And so that allows, I recognize that is massive privilege for me to be able to follow this purpose and to really, truly just want to get the message out. And look, I make no, bones about the fact that I want to be paid really well for the value that I create in the world. And I have no shyness about financial capital as one form of the energy that I want to collect back for the capital and the intellectual support and social support and, all those forms of value that I'm creating. But I do always feel really compelled to share the fact that that's a massive privilege that I am so grateful to have. And, universe, cosmically, who knows? I have landed here in this seat, and I'm so grateful for it. And I recognize that not everybody is in that case, right? And other people have beautiful, impactful, important messages and need to pay rent next month or need to, get kids' lunches organized financially and time-wise. And so, that I just recognize that that's real and encourage people to, not feel less than or frustrated or whatever, that they don't have some of that room and reach.
Totally. Well, and I really appreciate that you can say that and express that and call that out. I think that's really honorable because so many people try to hide parts of themselves, and I've never known you to do that. And I just respect that so much. And I'm curious now, like, when you see the future of 3D
Ooh.
performance, when
Mhm.
you really cast that vision out, like what is the vision with all of this, and how do you hope that people interact with that? You know, maybe it's, I really hope that I could get an introduction to this person, or
Mhm.
that my workshop, you know, as a result of the bonuses could go in this way. Like, I just want to kind of open it up a little bit to talk about vision and how we can all show up collectively, because you've got some amazing support here, but how can the collective show up and help you with this vision?
Yeah. Good question. Thank you for asking. I will, of course, answer in 3 dimensions. And so I'll start with, kind of the world piece of it. And it comes full circle back to that vision of work being healthier and fairer. But really specifically, I have a really clear vision of this, which is this community around conscious leadership, around 3D performance, and I don't have any ownership over that, whether it's my circle community of 3D performance on an app, or whether it's just 3D feeding other places. Again, I'm having dinner, with the Conscious Capitalism chapter tonight here in Connecticut, and the Be Local, which are amazing pieces of national and global movements around B Corps and conscious capitalism, doing a webinar Thursday with the Changing Work Collective, which is a new but really dynamic group of people who care about making work healthier and fair. I'm very clear that I'm not alone in that hope. And so I just really want to be a community builder and a connector in that world. And so, stay tuned if obviously many of you are actors and conveners in that way as well, or eager and willing participants. And so just stay tuned. I'm working on something for 2024 that'll be really powerful and convening, and, leverage that power of peer learning that I've believed in for so long. So that's the world piece, is that, we have this community where we don't think it's weird that we care about our people more than our profits per se, because that's the direction of profit, is starting with people who are well.
No kidding.
Yeah. So that's the world piece. The we piece is the offerings, right? And so I have kind of, 3 buckets of that. One is the book. I do want people to buy the book and to have access to it. And whether that's a team saying, hey, let's get the playbooks for everybody, or for the leadership team, or for new
100%.
managers as they step into their role, right? That's one very easy, relatively affordable offering. The second is the individual coaching that I love to do with influential leaders, right? So it's often a C-level person or a founder entrepreneur, but not always. It's just somebody with influence in an organization or over a community who is willing, as Serena said, to look in the mirror, but also to invest the time and the money,
Right.
that it takes for that. So definitely have a sliding scale depending on where people are at. So I do pro bono for, startup founders and other people who don't have the financial resources. And then I deliver very high cost, high value programs to people who do have, cash as well as other resources to give. And that includes the equine assisted learning, which we're going to talk about in one of the bonus activities and events. So get your bonuses. We'll share where to do that in a moment. And finally, the third piece in the we level is the purpose fused work, right? Of Mark and Neil and myself, as well as all of our many collaborators and partners who help deliver, building a program for you and your team. Can look a lot of different ways, can include the GC index and that energy work or not. But that's kind of the we dimension of how we can work together. And for me, I just want to be, valued for doing the work that I love to do, for being my best self, which is, wrangling people and ideas and horses, as I talk about in my purpose statement, to make work healthier, fairer, and more inspiring for all of us. And so that looks like being appreciated, being told one-on-one how something changed your life, or your day, or whatever scale that is. And being asked to step into roles or functions or engagements with your team, with your company, that move the needle and make a difference. And some of that is paid very well, and that's extremely validating to me. And other is not, but has that impact that is also validating. So there's my not short, but 3-dimensional answer for you.
Well, and what I love about you, Nell, is, and you and I have this in common, is that there's not just one cookie cutter package way to work with you. People come into calls with me and they're like, Amber, what does it look like to work together? I'm like, I don't know. That's my
What do you
answer.
need?
I have no idea what it looks like. I can show up however you need me to show up for, as long as it is helpful to you in whatever ways that would serve you best. And people are like, what? I don't understand that, because that is a very different way of creating value and offering service into the world. And so I love that, even as I'm listening to you and obviously know a lot about your offerings and the inner workings and how you're, navigating one-on-one versus peer-to-peer learning, which I think is a really special opportunity. If I had to ask people how to engage with you, I would say, just do it. Like, just do it. Just reach out and start a conversation and see where it could lead, and trust the process. Like, trust that Nell knows the questions to ask and the options to offer. Again, whether it's a free, whether it's a low cost, high cost, doesn't really matter what the cost, as long as you are in alignment and congruence, and that you are showing up and creating that impact in the world. So that's what, and share it with others, of course, right?
Yeah. Here. Well, we could jam for ages, but I know you have other work. I have a board meeting in a little bit.
I have like 12 questions to ask you, so I'll just have to ask you.
Pick your favorite best, and then we'll wrap. What's
Okay.
your what one do you not want to leave on the page?
I want to know, how have you changed in this process? Like, since meeting, how have you changed? What have you learned? How have you grown? What was a win? Something in that arena, especially coming from somebody who facilitates this work, secretly behind the scenes, we want to know what work has come up for you, and how you've grown.
Yeah.
By the way, Nell didn't know I was asking any of these questions, so I honor her
Truly
live
unscripted
in this moment for just being present with us. That's a big question to ask.
No, I mean, as you said, I really only have one flavor, for better or worse. I think other people in your role would have been like, oh my God, this woman's a disaster. She says everything that comes to her mind. So I appreciate your openness to that. No, I mean, I think really it was so funny. I got an email last night from Shanika, who was one of the colleagues in the coaching program with Serena over this last year that I went through. And so she was that person who I mentioned. We did peer coaching for each other, with each other, the first weekend of the training. And she's a, very successful executive, but not a coach, or not trained as a coach. And I am not trained as a coach, but have been coaching and facilitating for many years. And it was all around, I was starting to kind of come to this work. We didn't know each other yet. This was last October. And so the book was kind of lurking. It was out on ebook, and, what to do next. And I was talking about the challenge that I have, like my deep passion for this work, which maybe you all have seen and experienced over these now 2 hours that I've been talking at you about it. Excuse me. And belief that it makes lives better, not in an egotistical way, but just because I've seen that happen over the last 16 years,
totally.
And so to me, and there's all kinds of research, right? Again, it's not my idea. It's way bigger than me. I just have taken the time to make a tool that is useful to some people. But on the other hand, this real discomfort with self-promotion or marketing or whatever. And so that was, I think, a really helpful coaching conversation. And I think for sure that has been progress with you of getting me to be like, I care that people buy the book. It's important that people buy the book. I'm going to send, I know a lot of you on this stream or watching the recording got my very authentically individually recorded loom that I sent to over 250 of you. I hope that that's not offensive.
Individuals. Yep.
Individual, because I do care. Like I care. I did have something to say to you if you got one of those, and you probably did if you didn't get one, because there were, several hundred people beyond that I just didn't quite have the time or energy for. Look out, you're going to get one in the next few months. But I think getting comfortable with the fact, I tell people this, but it's always hardest to do for ourselves. Like, people are just really busy, and it's okay. I got some emails back to my fourth nudge, whatever it was, on my automated emails, thanks to Cheyenne, who's helping me. Thanks to you all in your sequences, being like, I'm really sorry. I'm going through cancer. And so I just haven't had time for this. And obviously the first answer is like, oh my God, I'm a horrible person to have invaded I am so sorry. And there have been a few of those real gut punches. And then just such grace of like, I am so sorry. do not think about this again. Is there anything I can do? And the person responds or doesn't or whatever, and we go on our way. But just accepting, and but so many others that are like, it's amazing to hear from you. I am looking for a new job. I saw you know this person. Can you connect me? And of course, to which I'm like, yeah, 1,000%, as I always have been willing to do, 1,000%. Or, oh my God, I've been looking for a lunch and learn speaker. I would love to pay you to come in and do this thing. This is perfect. Great. What a win-win. So I think it's really, that's been the work for me in action, is kind of reconciling I care about the message. It has value. People are really busy. It's not right for everyone all the time. I'm going to do what feels like spam in actually a very genuine, personal, authentic way, the most that I can with the resources at hand, and trust that that's going to be okay. And, there was one really standout email that was like, please don't use my email to market to me. And I wrote an email back being like, I'm so sorry, you're off the list. We really are trying to bring people together. So I do eventually sell things, but I'm not selling you anything. Like, I'm sorry, and I'm not sorry, because I just like to bring people together who think this. There was one of those, but that's out of, gosh, I think at least 10,000 emails have gone out in the last 6 weeks.
Well, I just want to thank you for your courage. I mean, that's obviously a big thing that you talk about in your book and in your playbook. And, I'm drawn to that message. And GNG stands for no guts, no glory. And I'm scared every day. Seriously, like, I put myself in those situations of like leaning into what I'm afraid of and managing my mindset, because I know if I don't do that, I'm not going to know my real potential, and I'm not going to deliver on my purpose of developing meaningful connection. So I just feel so aligned with you, with your message, with your material. I can't wait for the next book. I'm so happy I get to be your friend now. And it's just been a blast. And I'm really proud of you. So good.
So much. Thank you so much, Amber. Well, we're only 33% over scheduled time, so I guess it's a good place to wrap up. I think, and you really bring it home and full circle to what we started with Serena of, it is about courage. It is not easy. It is not easy. It is sometimes simple, not always. It is sometimes simple. Sometimes it is also complex. But it is so important, right? Because we do not regret the things that we tend not to regret the things that we do. We regret what we don't do. And so go first, find some little way to do that. You're already here, right? You're already obviously on the path. Again, this is not about convincing you to be purposeful, because if you're here, sorry, not sorry, the ship has sailed. You are connected to purpose, no matter how clearly you know it. So the website that Alexis shared, for the book, 3dperformancegroup.com/going first, is all about the book. You can order the book now there if you want to. I do care about selling the book. It has a lot of good ideas. Give it away if you already have it, or don't need it, or order two and give one away. But what's also really important there is that there is a section for bonuses and goodies. And so whether you order the book or not, I don't want to see your receipt, whatever. But if you're interested in this work, please claim your goodies, because they're really cool. And they're really this behind the scenes. Take advantage of my only flavor being transparency, because what we're going to do in the events that you'll get invited to is actually some real-time coaching in an individual setting and in a group setting, not with a whole team, but with a leader of a team that I've been working with. And so it's going to be really juicy. It's going to be really engaging. I'm relatively fun to hang out with most of the time, and my guests are even better. So drop your email in there. That is not a spam list or any version of a marketing list. It is truly just a sequence to get you those invitations, which are the events coming in November. So we'll make sure to follow up and remind you more about the horse coaching, which I know I've alluded to very mysteriously a few times, but you'll hear more from my mentor, Kelly Wendorf. And then another fabulously justice-seeking, purpose-driven, values-aligned founder and her team that we've worked with, by the way, on a very shoestring budget. So that is possible as well. And the first piece chronologically that you'll get in the bonuses is my weekly purpose tracker. So everything about like how many nights I take off from drinking a week to my kind of me, we world sense of progress over the course of the week or lack thereof. So it is redacted slightly. You won't see all of my last 2.5 years that I've been tracking. But I share that, with you as a template, not a directive, but a template that you can use to be tracking this, because that is what it's all about, right? It's about going through the 260 pages of questions and thinking about your answers and then revisiting them and getting better. And like Serena's client, not mastering a darn thing, because that's just not really possible in most areas of life that matter, but getting a little better and making better decisions. So I'm here to ask the questions and poke you about it. Brings me great joy and brings you great change. Yeah, so I have a little quote to end with, but Amber, what else do you want to close with?
I just want people to come to the workshops, really, because a lot of authors during their book launch, they'll give away a bunch of PDFs and pre-recorded videos. And Nell and I spoke extensively for weeks about what, she wanted to really offer. And honestly, it kept coming back to impact every single time. Yeah. And what we didn't want was for you to have a bundle of PDFs that you're never going to look at. We wanted something experiential, something where you can connect, something where you can really experience the value of peer-to-peer learning. And the fact that she's doing this laser coaching, the fact that she's bringing in a guest, it's going to be awesome. So I definitely go to the domain right there, and you can just opt in to get access to it. I'll be there. Nell will be there. We'll make a party out of it. It'll be awesome. That's all. That's what I want to say.
You're here. Well, the excerpt that I picked, I don't know what, 2 weeks ago when we were planning this, apparently ahead of schedule, could not be more suitable. So I'll just read it and we'll close there. Leading and living purposefully is an ongoing, upwardly spiraling journey, with pitfalls and pit stops inevitably arising along the way. Coming back to these same tools and questions will never feel the same twice. They'll help you see new insights and aspirations each time, so keep them close. More importantly, go first in whatever way is appealing, authentic, just the right amount of challenging, and inspiring for who you are and where you sit. Take one action that will get you closer to having the impact you seek right now. But you can't do that if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn. So we'll close there. Thank you all so much for being such a great part of it. Thanks to NGNG for production and PYP for getting the book out, and all of you fabulous humans who have been in my life for 15 years or more and helped me come up with all of this. Be well.